And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Baseball Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have everybody here on this Friday, December 15th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show and makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So with that, let's get right into what we are going to talk about today. So, starting off the show, we are going to talk about Shohei Ohtani signing that 10-year, $700 million contract with the LA Dodgers. So we'll get into that. And some of the disagreements that I have, as well as other baseball fans have with this deal. So we'll get into that. In the second part of the show, I'll go over some power rankings that there was an article that came out on CBS Sports. So I'll go over that and where teams are in those power rankings. And then in the third part of the show, we'll talk about Cody Bellinger and where he can potentially sign. Because now with some teams making moves, they're out on the Cody Bellinger sweepstakes, so we'll get into that. And then in the final part of the show, I'll give you Yamamoto updates, where teams he's visited with and where he could possibly sign here. So now, thing I want to touch upon, you might notice that I'm not in my bedroom. I'm in a different location. I am currently in my basement. Because, with the new times and stuff, it's a little bit earlier. So I thought, because pretty much everybody in my house is home today, so I thought I'm going to help them out. I'm going to do the show, at least this show. I'll probably go back up in my room for the football podcast. But at least for this show, I am going to stream in my basement. I'm currently sitting in front of my brother's PC. So that's where I'm doing the show right now. I just want to move my mic on my laptop if I'm able to do that, just so it's a little bit closer. Hopefully I don't click anything. But yeah, so that's so this is where I am currently, is in my brother's PC chair, his gamer chair, as I'm doing the show here. So let's get right into the first topic now, which is talking about Ohtani. So he signed with the Dodgers, 10 years, $700 million. Okay, and it was funny because before that, there were reports that there was a plane heading towards Toronto and that Ohtani was on it. He was going to Toronto, and it was like, okay, looks like the Blue Jays, they might end up signing Ohtani. But that was not the case. Ohtani ends up getting signed by the Dodgers. So he was actually at home, and he ended up signing the 10-year deal with the Dodgers for $700 million. But here's the thing, and I honestly had no idea that you could do this, but they deferred $680 million to the end of the contract. So Ohtani is going to be making $2 million for 10 years, and then the rest of that contract is going to be paid once he retires. I honestly didn't know you could do that. If I'm gonna be completely honest, listen. It's a smart move for them, but it's terrible for the game. It's terrible for the game. There's no question about it. Because now the Dodgers can go out and they can get whoever. I mean, they could go out and sign Yamamoto. I mean, they actually made another trade yesterday. They acquired Tyler Glasnow and Manuel Margot from the Rays. Because the pitching for the Dodgers, especially, that's kind of, the reason why they got eliminated last year. That was that was a good trade for them. But yeah, the pitching was the problem. So now they go out and get him. Ohtani's not going to pitch this year. I saw that Clayton Kershaw is still, undecided on whether or not he's going to pitch in 2024. So we'll keep our eyes on that. But, Ohtani's going to come back and pitch next year. You got Glasnow. And then on top of that, you can go out and sign Yamamoto. Sorry, I'm holding back a sneeze. Again, that at least happens, once or twice during the stream. But yeah, so they could go out and get whoever they want, and yeah, it's not good for the game. Um, and listen, as you could see all the Yankee stuff, behind me. Look, I get it, but it's just, I mean, for these smaller market teams, I mean, it's like, what's even the point? Now, people are still making jokes on social media. They're going to do all this, just to, get knocked out in the first round. And again, it's very possible. Um, but they are stacking their team right now. And, you could say that the lineup's kind of top heavy, with Freeman, Betts, Ohtani. And then, you got some of the other, like, obviously Muncy is a good player for them, a guy that can hit 40 plus home runs, but doesn't hit for average. Um, so, but the lineup's top heavy, and it's you know, it's still a very good lineup. It's just that you know, they still have to fill it out, and I mean they acquired Margot, so but I mean it was going to come down to either the Blue Jays or the Dodgers. That's the bottom line. So, um, the Dodgers ended up getting it, and it's not surprising. But now it's like they could go out and get whoever they want. They can do whatever they want. They could get Yamamoto. I mean, they could get Blake Snell. I mean, they could sign everybody. And it scares me because listen, the Yankees, they might have Soto for just 1 year, but you know, the Dodgers could say, hey, we'll give you money. We got we deferred all that money to with Ohtani. We could bring you in too, and then they add him to their lineup too. So, but they're able to do it. It's not like they're doing something illegal. This is something Ohtani suggested. And he said if it was up to, he said he would defer all the money, because he wants to win. And look, I get it, because you spend all those years with the Angels and, you really couldn't get anything going. Um, you know, I get it, but, it's not good for a lot of baseball fans are not happy about it. I'm not happy about it either, but, again, I'm a Yankee fan, so, does my opinion matter? I mean, I think it does. I mean, listen, I don't want to see my team doing that either. Like if the Yankees are able to sign Soto, like I don't want them doing that. But I mean, if they do that, I'm not gonna complain about it. If it's legal and we're able to do it, then they could do it. But at the same time, I'd rather them not do that. But because Ohtani even said that, I think it was like with all his like endorsement deals and things like that. Um, he the contract he could get paid whenever for that. So I mean, again, he's not going to be pitching the first year, but I know because then he's going to retire and he's going to get all that retirement money, which is insane. Because I think it was like between like because I saw it was like between like 2034 and 2043 is when like he'll get all the money basically, like roughly. I mean, it's wild. It's unprecedented. The deal, $700 million. Because yeah, I mean, are we gonna reach that point where a player's gonna get like in a sport? Are we gonna reach that point where a player's gonna get paid $1 billion? Because it's kind of trending that way. Um, I mean, unless like somebody comes along and is able to play, two sports. I mean, combined they'll get $1 billion maybe. But I don't know. Ohtani came very close to that, 700 million. I mean, like, you see some of the contracts these guys sign, like back, like 10 years ago, like Cano signs that 10-year contract with the Mariners. Um, you know, Trout signing his contract and Stanton, all these guys, and now we're getting to, this 700 million. I mean, this is a 10-year contract, but $700 million is just insane. And he's not not going to get that much of it until he retires. So, yeah, it's a pretty lucrative contract, and it's wild. It's wild. But that was the biggest free agent on the board. And now we kind of just we're kind of just waiting on, where everybody else is going to sign. Um, you know, so, we just got to wait and see. But the big guys have been moved. The big guys have gone places. Otani and Soto, they were, with their new teams now. So, we're waiting on Yamamoto, Bellinger, some of these other guys that haven't signed yet. So, we're moving right along in the off season. But yeah, let me know what you guys think though about this deal with Otani. I mean, listen, the Dodgers, and I talked about this, like getting rid of a lot of guys. They got rid of Trey Turner and Justin Turner. Um, some of these guys that have been contributors to their team, and that's because they had their eyes on Otani. I mean, they had JD Martinez for 1 year. Obviously, he's going to be gone. Because Otani's going to be their DH. I mean, I don't really see him playing the field, even when he comes back and pitches next year. Because I'm pretty sure they did throw him out in the outfield, and I guess but we'll see. I mean, new team, we'll see what the Dodgers decide to do there. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting deal, and because I mean, I've never seen that. I've never seen that. I've never seen them just push all the money towards the end of. Well, I'm not saying like in any sport, but it's obviously like you have, in the NFL, like they, can move money around and things like that, especially like when they're trying to like, maneuver it for like the salary cap. But I mean, I mean, at least for like this amount, like $680 million. I mean, now compared to what he's getting paid, for the 10 years, it's like lunch money. He's getting paid $2 million a year. Like I wish, like I wish we got paid that, But that's the thing, and the owners, they enabled it, and listen, I've had these conversations with my family for years now. Every time somebody signs a big contract, it's like, I mean, there's not. What do you want me to do about it? I can't do anything about it. This is what it is. This is what it is. So, um, it's unfortunate, for some people because now they just feel like, well, what's the point of even playing next year? What's the point of even just watching the season if you just think the Dodgers are going to make it? But listen, Dodgers can bring in whoever. Listen, you won the COVID season, but since then, I mean, their team was loaded in 2022. A lot of people thought they were going to win that year, and they got bounced out by the Padres. So, listen, all it takes is one team to get hot at the right time, and then you get eliminated. And we saw that plenty of times in the playoffs. The team that won the World Series, the Rangers, they got hot at the right time. So, but yeah, like I said, let me know what you guys think about this Ohtani deal. And with that, we're going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, we're going to discuss the MLB Power Rankings that I saw on CBS. I'll give you my thoughts on that when we come back from our first break of the show. So, that being said, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC or baseball podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to talk about the MLB Power Rankings that I saw on CBS. Because I figured, like, with the Ohtani move and the Soto move, there had to be, you know, there really no sites were like doing them. Because like for me, I like to at least like go through a list and then kind of like compare it to what I think. So CBS did come out with one a couple days ago, well 4 days ago. So I'll go through it, give you my thoughts on it, and that'll be the second part of the show here. So I'm just gonna try to move a little bit closer to the mic. So starting at number 30, there's really no surprise. It's the Oakland A's. 50 and 112 on the season last year. Not very good. Not very good. And they'll be moving to Vegas. Obviously, we talked about that. So, but yeah, they not good. Rockies 59 and 103 at 29. Like, when are the Rockies going to be good? I mean, like, and it's funny because people talk about that head scratching move where they signed Chris Bryant. I mean, they're not a good team. The White Sox, they got a 28. They've talked about them moving pieces. Dylan Cease has been a guy that's been a part of trade talks. I think Eloy Jimenez as well. So I mean, we'll see what the White Sox end up doing, but yeah, I mean, this is a team that was like the favorite to win the division the last couple of seasons, and just hasn't been the case. It was the Guardians, now it's the Twins that won. Yeah, it's just not good. 27, you got the Nationals. A team that's still in rebuild. They're at 27. 26 is the Royals. I mean, 56 wins on the season last year. They've signed a couple of free agents, pitchers at least. I know they signed reliever Will Smith, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they're going to be, but they got some young players there. But yeah, I don't know when the Royals are going to be good again. They had the Angels at 25. I mean, now with Ohtani out of the picture, I mean, what is this team going to look like next year? I think they're looking for pitching, but it's just, I don't know. I feel like you just got to tear it down, trade Mike Trout, because the team's just not going to be good. I mean, his whole career is going to be wasted. Now, again, he did sign that deal. I understand that, but I mean, at the same time, if you're the Angels, like, try to get something for him, because get some young prospects, try to rebuild this team. But again, Angel fans probably don't have any faith in this team to rebuild it the proper way, so I don't know. 24, you got the Pirates. They did get off to a good start last year, so maybe this year they can maintain that. They ended up going 76 and 86 on the season, so we'll see. The Tigers, I mean, this is going to be now the post-Miguel Cabrera era. They got some good players on their team. They're still a team that's, maybe, some years away from, being, a better team to be a contender or a playoff contender at least. But we'll see. Giants, they got a 22. They signed the Korean baseball player Jung-Hoo Lee. So that was kind of like their big move of the offseason. They're also looking into bringing Matt Chapman. I saw that. The connection between him and Bob Melvin, because they were together in Oakland. So maybe that ends up being a fit. But yeah, I mean, the Giants, they have actually they posted on social media the anniversary of last year. When they signed Correa to that contract, and obviously we know that ended up not getting finalized. That was such a with Correa, that was such a weird thing, because he signed with the Mets, then he signed with the Giants, and then he just ended up going back to the Twins. So, but yeah, so he's at 22 for the Giants. 21, the Marlins. This was a playoff team last year, or this year. This year's almost over, but I liked what they were able to do, especially at the deadline too. Getting Jake Berger, who ended up being a good fit with them. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Alcantara, their best pitcher, had a down year. I mean, the Marlins. Let's see what they could do this year. Can they improve on last year? That remains to be seen. You got the Guardians at 20. They finished 10 games under 500. I mean, you see Shane Bieber's a part of trade rumors. So we'll see what they end up doing. Obviously, Terry Francona retiring. New manager there. Again, I mean, they're in a weak division, so I mean, anything is possible. So, but yeah, they're at 20. The Red Sox at 19. I mean, let's see what they end up doing. I mean, they haven't really. They traded for outfielder Tyler O'Neill from the Cardinals. But they traded Verdugo. Well, that was to replace Verdugo. But yeah, I don't know what the Red Sox are gonna do. I honestly have no idea. I just it remains to be seen. But they got rid of Heim Bloom, which a lot of Red Sox fans were really happy about. So we'll see what they if they do anything major, but it doesn't really seem like it because they got holes on that team. Cardinals are at 18. Obviously, they signed Sonny Gray to a contract. They did sign a couple of pitchers along with him. They brought back Lance Lynn. They brought back Kyle Gibson. So, I mean, the rotation should be at least better, even though Lance Lynn, hasn't been good recently. Did not pitch well in the playoffs, that's for sure. So, I mean, at least with Sonny Gray at the top of the rotation, you at least have, a number one starter. And you figure with Goldschmidt, with Arenado, maybe the team is better. And again, both Central divisions are pretty weak divisions. So they got the Mets at 17. Yeah, I don't know what the Mets are doing. Are they kind of just gonna wait till next year to spend money? I mean, let's see if they get Yamamoto, but right now it doesn't seem like that. Here in New York, I mean, some people are like, oh yeah, the Mets are still in on it, but then you see other things and they're like, yeah, it seems like there's two teams that are the favorites to get him. Obviously, one of them we talked about, the Dodgers. So I don't really know what the situation is with that, but they got him at 17. The Reds at 16. They signed Candelario, Nick Martinez, Emilio Pagan. So they've improved the team. And they were a team that surprised some people with what they were able to do last year. So let's see if they can build off of that. The Cubs, bringing in Craig Counsell to be their manager. We'll see when we'll talk about him in the next segment. Cody Bellinger, what ends up, happening there. Do they bring him back? And they had a disappointing end to their season, so they're going to want to, avoid that. Padres at 14, obviously they traded Soto, but you still got Machado there, Bogarts, Tatis, so, I mean, they still got a good lineup. They're going to lose Hader as well. And we'll see where Snell ends up signing. So, they're going to have some holes on their team. But, I mean, I think, I don't know, we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening there. The Brewers are at 13. So it seems like they're not going to trade Corbin Burns. Because they still want to contend for the division. And, yeah, like I just said, I mean, the Central is pretty weak. On both sides. So, so they hold on to him. And I mean, if they fall out of it mid-season, maybe a team trades for him. Like, maybe my team somehow could get him. That would be nice if we can't get Yamamoto. The Mariners at 12. Yeah, they had a disappointing end to their season. They're trying to, get back to the playoffs again. Because, I mean, they performed well in the playoffs in 2022. I mean, listen, if it wasn't for Yordan Alvarez and that, 18-inning marathon, maybe, they could have got a little bit further, but, they, credit to them, they were able to come back and win that game against the Blue Jays, but, yeah, disappointing end to their season. You got the Twins at 11, winning the Central. I mean, losing Sonny Gray, though, that's a big loss there, so we'll see if they're able to, replace him. They got the Diamondbacks at 10. They added Eduardo Rodriguez to their rotation, so that, they got a nice rotation there with Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen, and we'll see if Brandon Pfaadt can continue to, he can build off of that, playoff performance because he was pretty good. I mean, he didn't pitch a ton of innings, but still, I mean, you'll take it because he did have a rough rookie regular season. So then this is the rest of the teams. You got the Blue Jays at 9. they missed out on Ohtani. What are they going to do to make up for it? We'll talk about, who they could potentially get in the next segment. The Rangers are at 8. World Series. I mean, I feel like the Rangers got disrespected a little bit, being put down at 8 on this list. I feel like they should be higher. They should be above the Rays. I feel like the Rays are kind of, you know what? I think the Rays should be at least lower than the Rangers. I'd probably put them ahead of the Blue Jays and everybody else. Because, the Rangers, wiped the floor with them in the playoffs. And the Rangers won the World Series. They should be, I can understand why, some teams are in the top 5. But, yeah, I feel like the Rangers are getting disrespected getting put at 8. So, yeah, the Rays are at 7. I don't really know what to expect out of them. They're probably still going to be a good team. But, yeah, it's just weird. Like, they trade Glass now. So, we'll see what ends up happening with them. But, and obviously, the situation with Wander Franco. Yeah, but they'll find replacements and they'll win their 90 games most likely because that's what they do. But then they're not going to do anything in the playoffs and that's what happens. At 6 you got the Orioles. They obviously they're going to be without their all-star closer Felix Bautista. So that's kind of that's a big loss there. But they did replace him with Craig Kimbrell. And listen, Kimbrell can still be good, but he is wildly inconsistent. So that is just something to think about because you saw that in the playoffs. But yeah, so the Orioles are at 6, and then the top 5 is the Phillies. Obviously they had a disappointing end to their season. They were hoping to get back to the World Series, and the Diamondbacks prevented them from doing that. But they'll be right back there this year. Next year with their lineup and their pitching, bringing back Nola on that. I think it was a 7-year deal. So the top 4 is got the Yankees at 4. Yankees jumped up 11 spots on these power rankings. I can't disagree, but I don't know. I feel like we're kind of jumping it a little bit because listen, you had Soto, which is great, but at the same time, it's like you still have a lot of the players from last year. Like you have Rizzo, who was one of the worst hitters in baseball last year. Now, again, I think that has a lot to do with the concussion. So I think he's going to be better next year. I keep saying this year, next year. LeMahieu, he got better he was better in the second half, but still not great. And Giancarlo Stanton, who knows what's going to happen with him? The Yankees still have some holes on this team. Like we'll see, the bullpen is going to be different next year because you don't have Michael King. They did make the trade with the Dodgers. They acquired some players. They traded one of their prospects, Trey Sweeney. They got a relief pitcher and another infielder as well. I think he was like top 10 prospect for the Dodgers, I want to say. But yeah, so they got a lefty reliever to replace Wandy, because now there's no Michael King. A lot of some of the guys that they brought up last year to be bulk guys, to come in relief or spot starters like Randy Vasquez and Johnny Brito, they don't have them, so they got to rebuild this pitching staff a little bit, and that's why signing Yamamoto would be great. So we'll wait and see, but Yankees still got some holes on this team. However, they have a lot more left-handed bats than they had a couple weeks ago, which is great. So they actually have the Dodgers at 3. So they got the Astros at 2 and the Braves at 1. Can't really disagree with it because the Braves, I think, collectively still have a better lineup than the Dodgers. But listen, the Dodgers got Freeman, they got Betts, and now Ohtani. That's going to get a lot of run production there. But Braves lineup from top to bottom you would say, is probably the deeper lineup than the Dodgers do. And the Astros are at 2. Listen, the Astros are still going to be a very good team this year. It was interesting because I saw a bunch of headlines about, could they trade Bregman and Framber Valdez? I'm like, really? Are they even considering that? But yeah, so those are the power rankings that I just wanted to talk about. So before we go into our next break, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, we're going to take our second break. When we come back, we're going to discuss Cody Bellinger and what's the recent news surrounding him. So, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about Cody Bellinger and where he's going to go. What's his market looking like? Because, now with Ohtani off the board, now he's kind of like the next big, free agent bat that's out there. And nothing's been happening right now. So I'm seeing a lot of things about the Blue Jays possibly, trying to bring him in, because they obviously were in on Ohtani, and now Ohtani is off the board. So, we're gonna see, if that ends up happening. I hope it doesn't, because I don't want to see him in the American League East. But listen, there's still a lot of speculation on Bellinger, because he had a great year. In 2023, but the previous couple of seasons weren't very good. I'm just pulling up his baseball reference. So last year, 26 home runs, 97 RBIs, 307 batting average, 356 on base percentage, 525 slugging, 881 OPS. He had a great year. But then you go to the previous, 2 seasons. He played in 95 games in 2021 and 144 in 2022. And, his home run totals, 2021 10, 2022 19, 36 RBIs in 21, 68 in 22. He had 150 strikeouts in 2022. He batted 165 in 21, 210 in 22. And then you go to like the on base, OPS, and slugging. Even the batting average. 165 in 21, 210 in 22, 240 on base percentage in 21, 265 in 22, 302 slugging in 21, 389 in 22, OPS in a 542, and then a 654 in 22. So yeah, it's rough. So people are like, well, if you give him this contract, is he gonna produce? I don't want to, lean one way or the other, because, this could just be one year where he just bounced back. But, it just shows that he's still capable of having years like he just had in 23. I guess it was just, he just had a rough stretch for 2 years, and maybe he figured it out. But yeah, he did this with the Cubs. He goes to another team, he could very easily just underperform there. And then you're stuck with this contract, 6-7 year contract that he signs. I saw something that said, but it was a Yankee page. It was like, oh, could the Yankees come back around for Cody Bellinger? And it's true. Like the Yankees, they don't have, Dominguez is going to be out until I think July. Rizzo's not going to be the long term answer at first base. Listen, they were able to get Bellinger. And with Soto, why not? I would do it. Get another lefty bat. But then it's just like you got way too many outfielders. Then you'd have to move. Then you would have to move somebody. Somebody would have to get moved. But it's not happening. But I did also see that the Yankees were never really in on Bellinger, so we'll see. But he's not signing there. I think so. The Giants, I think, are out. Maybe they bring him in possibly because they signed Jung Hoo Lee. which I brought up before. Um, I mean, the Blue Jays is a spot. I mean, I think the Red Sox also maybe, bring him in, a lefty bat. I feel like a lefty. I mean, he's a lefty bat. I feel like anybody could use him. I mean, like I said, with the Yankees, I'd take him just because more lefties. Um, but it's just we don't really have the room for him. Um, Especially now getting Soto. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's weird though because yesterday when I was looking at different articles, different headlines, there was one that said a Cubs Bellinger reunion is likely, and then I saw one that said like it's unlikely. So I who knows? But listen, that price keeps going down. For him maybe the Yankees say, hey, we'll take you for cheap. We'll take you to be our long term answer at first base. Maybe. Because Rizzo, I think it depends on what ends up happening with Rizzo. Like if Rizzo goes out there and has a good season, then I think maybe you bring Rizzo back on a cheap deal, and you just kind of ride it out with him until he just can't produce because he was on his way to having a really good season. It's just that injury, the concussion where Tatis ran into him, that changed his whole season. So I'm hoping that was the case because I love Anthony Rizzo. I think Anthony Rizzo was a great trade, getting him, and he's produced. He's produced in the postseason. That's how Yankee fans kind of evaluate their players, at least some of them, is how you do in the postseason. Because look at Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge hasn't really produced in the postseason, but I mean, listen, Aaron Judge. I'm not somebody that Yankee fans were booing him, in 22 in the playoffs. Like, you're not gonna see me doing that. But yeah, getting off topic here with the Yankees. But listen, anybody could use Bellinger. Anybody. That doesn't mean that anybody is going to sign him. I mean, he's going to go to the team that's going to be a contender, maybe. I mean, I think the Blue Jays would be a good fit just because that's a team that needs left-handed bats. I mean, they tried to correct that, trading for Varsho last year, and that just ended up not panning out at all because Lourdes Gurriel Jr. ended up having a good season. I think he was an All-Star too, and he ended up going to the World Series with the Diamondbacks. So, the Blue Jays, they need to bring in some left-handed bats. Because, listen, they got Bichette, they got Vlad, Springer. They got good players. It's just you need a left-handed bat. And if Bellinger could come in and be that guy. Because, listen, Brandon Belt they brought in last year, too. And, he was, okay for them. But Cody Bellinger, if Cody Bellinger plays how he did last year, if they bring him in, definitely a significant upgrade. But yeah, I mean, there's teams that right now it seems like it's the Cubs and the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays might emerge now as this other team, but I don't know. A team is going to take a chance on him. Now, whether or not it backfires and he ends up reverting back to 2022 and 2021 Cody Bellinger, that remains to be seen. But at least. For right now, I mean, I think somebody's going to take a chance on him. Somebody just has to. Watching some videos, like he liked Chicago a lot. It was a bitter end to their season, though. Because I still remember, I was like, oh, yeah, this team is a slam dunk to make the playoffs. Like, I don't see them, falling out of it. And they did. They fell out of it. And I was talking about how that last series against the Brewers was going to be maybe that's going to end up being for the division. Nope. Cubs that weren't even they got eliminated. They weren't even in the playoffs. So yeah, it was a bitter end to their season. So we'll see if they end up bringing him back. If he goes back there and he can continue to have success. You got Craig Counsell there now. And he said he wants to take the Cubs to the next level. So, bringing back Bellinger definitely, has them heading in that direction. But, it's, again, we got to wait and see. as I always say with pretty much everything on both shows that I do. That's really what it comes down to. Is we really just got to wait and see on that, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on, as because Ohtani is now a Dodger, so now we're looking at him. We're looking at Blake Snell. Where are these guys going to sign? Yamamoto, who we'll talk about in the next segment. We'll see what ends up happening, but right now it's funny just seeing next to each other, like looking on Safari. Cubs reunion likely and unlikely. There's like two of them, two articles. So nobody knows anything. I mean, it's all speculation. So, I listen. I'm just going off of what I see. I mean, listen. I for me, I don't have any sources. I wish I did, because that would make the show better. But listen, I'm just a guy that's recording this podcast in my basement. So, I know pretty much just as much as you do, So, but let me know what you guys think. Where do you think Bellinger ends up signing? Because listen, the Blue Jays would be a fit just because they need a left-handed bat. Going back to Cubs is not a bad idea. I would prefer, for me, he doesn't come to the AL East, go somewhere else. Stay in the National League, maybe, or unless you want to come to the Yankees, on a cheap deal, we'll take you. But I think stay out of the American League East. But listen, I'm just happy that the Yankees got Juan Soto. So at least I'm just hoping they have a better year. That's me. But nobody else can get any other good players. Just the Yankees. I mean, even the Red Sox. Could the Red Sox maybe step in and get him? I mean, they traded for Tyler O'Neill, like I said, but maybe the Red Sox need him. Help out that lineup with Devers. Give him some protection in the lineup. Yeah. How far the Red Sox have fallen since. Listen, they were competitive last year, but that 2018 team, that was one of the best teams ever that I've seen, really. I mean, that team was just unbelievable. And they tore that thing down pretty fast. So, but they're going to have to build it back up again. At least they were able to bring back Devers. Listen, you bring in Cody Bellinger, maybe he's somebody that helps them out. I don't know. Because I think he was another. The Red Sox were another team that I saw that maybe they could step in and get him. I don't know. Red Sox have a lot of holes on their team, so. But yeah, that's pretty much it when talking about Bellinger. Again, let me know what you guys think, where he potentially goes. Is there a team that I didn't talk about that maybe he ends up going to? Let me know down in the comments or in the chat. So with that being said, we're going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about Yamamoto and the updates with him, and that will be the final part of the show here. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are now going to talk about Yamamoto and what's the update with him. So, obviously, you had Steve Cohen flying out to Japan to talk with him. The Yankees met with him on Monday. The Dodgers met with him too. Um, they had their different tactics. So I'm not because I there were different things I saw with the Yankees meeting, because I saw that they were going to use they were going to have Tanaka and Matsui there to meet with Yamamoto. So I'm not sure if like that actually happened. Because then we saw that that wasn't the case. So I don't know. So I'm just seeing will the Yankees include them, but regardless of that, even though that would be the right thing to do, because those are two players that were very successful with the Yankees. Obviously, Matsui was the World Series MVP back in 2009, and Tanaka, was a quality starter for them. Pitched in some big games in the postseason. He was a good Yankee, and I miss both of them. Matsui obviously growing up watching him. Tanaka came when I was came over from Japan to the Yankees when I was a teenager. Um, but yeah, both of them were a big part of my Yankee life growing up. Um, and we'll see if Yamamoto will come here, but the Dodgers, they had Ohtani, of course, to help him out. Also, Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts were both in the meeting as well. So it seems like it's going to come down to the Dodgers and the Yankees. And I'm going to be honest, I think he's going to go to the Dodgers. Now, the Yankees feel very confident that they could still get him. And listen, I have confidence that, we're at least going to make a good offer. But I think he's a Dodger. I think he's a Dodger, especially with what came out with Ohtani's deal and how that's, all that money that's getting deferred, and that just opens up, opens up the possibility of him going to the Dodgers. The Dodgers are willing to give, whatever he wants to get him, and I think the Yankees are going to get outbid. Now you also got the Mets as well, that are one of the potential teams, but it seems like from what I've been seeing, it seems like the front runners are the Yankees and the Dodgers. Now, who's he going to choose? It's going to probably come down to money, and I did see, as many of you have as well, that he wants to play with other Japanese players. Now, the Yankees had Tanaka and Matsui. The Dodgers have Ohtani right now. So, that combined with the Dodgers having a lot of money and what they did with Ohtani's contract, I think he's going to be a Dodger. And so then you'll have him. I think Walker Buehler is going to be back with Glasnow. We'll see what Kershaw decides to do. And suddenly, you look at the Dodgers rotation, and then Ohtani comes back next year. So he'll probably replace Kershaw, because it seems like Kershaw, depending on what Kershaw does. Dodgers got a loaded rotation suddenly, with two Japanese star players at the top. And I can understand, if Yamamoto wants to go there, because at the same time it's like California is a lot closer to Japan than New York is, but maybe he wants to go to New York. I don't know. Listen, Yankees need pitching. Now that's what they got to focus on right now, is pitching, because you have Garrett Cole, and then outside of that, it's a lot of question marks. Like Carlos Rodon, is he going to bounce back? I hope. I got to give him another chance. You have to. As Yankee fans, you have to. Now, as me being right about him getting hurt, and I wasn't right about him getting hurt. When he got hurt, I said he was going to come back and pitch bad, and that's exactly what happened. Now, I didn't base it off of anything. I just said, you know what? He's going to end up pitching bad. And that's exactly what happened. But he can bounce back. You also got Nestor Cortez, who dealt with injuries last year. If he bounces back, if he could beat Nestor Cortez from 2022, that's a huge plus for the Yankees. And then you traded Michael King, you traded Brito and Vasquez, so now you're like, you gotta replace those guys, and you also got Clark Schmidt as well. So yeah, the rotation's kind of a little bit of a is a bit of a not a little bit is a question mark outside of Garrett Cole. So that's why the Yankees kind of need another starter. Now, if they don't get Yamamoto, they could pivot to somebody else. They can maybe trade for somebody. We'll see. But I would love to have him. So, but like I said, I think he is. I think he's going to be a Dodger because I feel like the Dodgers kind of have the edge. But the Yankees feel confident that they can get a deal done. So, I mean, or at least they felt confident like with the meeting that they had with him. So I don't know. I really don't I don't know if it's gonna happen, but we'll see. We shall see what ends up happening there. But yeah. So I just wanted to remind you guys again today. So once this show is over at 10 o'clock Eastern time, the GSMC football podcast will follow. That'll be at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. I most likely will go back to where I normally stream. I just wanted to do this just because, I thought, since it was early, I wanted to come down here and at least do it so I don't have, everybody sleeping hearing me talk about, baseball at 9 o'clock in the morning. So and I thought, listen, my brother's not home. He's at school. So I'm like, why don't I just stream down here? I mean, it's a big room. There's a desk to sit at. So, you got the Yankees stuff in the background. So I thought, why not? But yeah, so the baseball podcast will be after that, or football podcast will be after this. So make sure to tune in for that because we got a lot to talk about. Recapping last night's game. Man, we'll get into it because we'll save it for the football podcast. But last night's game, I mean, just wow. And then we will preview, all the games for this weekend because we got 3 tomorrow, and then we got everything else on Sunday and Monday. So, Monday we'll save for when we do Monday's show. But yeah, I mean that's what's going on today, and then of course throughout the day, I'll have the shorts and reposting the show from yesterday, the football show from yesterday. With these 2 shows, I'll try to have them up. At least like the audio side of them will be posted earlier in the day tomorrow. The other thing is, which actually will help us significantly, is we're trying to work to being able to download the show like pretty much immediately after the show is done, which would help tremendously because I have been like I try to get these shows out the best way I can. Like as soon as like they're ready to be downloaded, which is late at night, I get them like I at least post like I'm trying to post like the audio ones first, and then I get the video ones out. Because obviously we have the live stream up on YouTube, but we do have like a big audience when it comes to audio. So, we want to have the audio like portion of it out as soon as possible. But yeah, I mean, this is like the stuff you got to work through. Because obviously technology isn't the best. There's some hurdles you got to go through, and that's one of them. But and of course, like I mentioned before, we're gonna have some changes coming up, having more shows that'll be on the way, more content, which is really exciting. Like I said, I'll be making appearances on some of them, so you'll see me there, and you'll see people making appearances on these shows as well. So we got a lot of stuff coming up, but yeah. With the baseball season, spring training is still a couple of months away. We still got some free agents that are still out there. to be signed. And then before you know it, it's going to be that season. It's going to be baseball season. It's going to take over because, football is winding down. It's winding down. Only got, this week is underway, but counting this week, you got 4 weeks left in the regular season. Then it's playoffs. And then the playoffs fly by, Super Bowl, and that's it. But you also got the national championship, the college football playoff. That's, coming up in a couple weeks. So, yeah, I mean, before you know it, it's literally just going to be baseball. That's going to be more for the summertime. I mean, you're still going to have hockey, you're still going to have basketball, but, at least, for right now, it's, when we get to the summer, that's when it's literally just going to be baseball. So, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the show today. Holidays, we got, more holidays coming up next week. Already, started. Obviously, we passed Thanksgiving. We got, Hanukkah and Christmas, of course, this month. New Year's after that. It's even the year is winding down already. And I'll tell you right now, probably, the fastest year of my life. Seriously. Like, this year has just flown by. The days just go. I mean, the days have gone faster than they've ever have. I'm going to be honest. But yeah, that's just what happens. So, but like I said, make sure to tune in for the football podcast, which is going to be coming up in a little over a half hour. Make sure to look out for the shorts that I come out with today. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the show for today. Obviously, a lot, to discuss. I mean, Ohtani getting signed was a big thing. And there's still some free agents that, we're still waiting on. So once that happens, of course, we'll talk about them, next week. But Ohtani, that was Ohtani and Soto, those are the two guys that, we were really focusing on. The moves have been made. Now, Ohtani is, going to be with the Dodgers for the next 10 years. But actually, there was another thing, too, that I heard. That I was watching. And so, if there's a change in personnel with the Dodgers, Ohtani can opt out. I think that's what I heard. Now, it wasn't, specific as to what that means. So, I guess that means if, the Dodgers, do something that Ohtani doesn't like, he could just easily, get out of the contract. I'd have to look that up. But that's something that, that's at least something that I saw, here watching the simulcast of one of the radio shows here in New York. And I was like, that's interesting. So, I don't know. So, I guess, if Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman are gone or something and the Dodgers are bad, then he's like, all right, I'm getting out of here. So, I don't know. That's just something that I saw. I'd have to look into that more. But, yeah, I mean, contract's insane. And Dodgers are making moves. They're making more moves, and more moves might be on the way. So, and of course, the power rankings that CBS came out with. Not really that many disagreements with it, but maybe you move the Yankees down, possibly. You move the Rangers up. The Rangers being at 8, I think they should, be closer to the top 5 because they did win the World Series. I mean, they beat up on the Rays and the Orioles to get to the World Series. So, but you could also look at they might not bring back Jordan Montgomery, so the rotation might be a little bit weaker, but we'll see. But yeah, with that is all the time that we have for this show at least. Make sure to tune in for the football podcast in about a half hour. So until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC baseball podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys shortly. If not, have a good weekend, and I'll see you next time. Take care.